Nigeria's largest financial institution, FBN Holdings plc, held its 5th annual general meeting, which was an opportunity to review the 2016 financial year results and approve the payment of 20 kobo dividend to its shareholders. Independent auditors, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and the Audit Committee, in their separate statements, affirmed that the company's statement of financial position and comprehensive income were in agreement with the Book of Accounts.
What we have audited: FBN Holding PLC's consolidated and separate financial statements comprise the consolidated and separate statements of financial position as at 31 December 2016, the consolidated and separate income statements for the year then ended, the consolidated and separate statements of comprehensive income for the year then ended, the consolidated and separate statements of changes in equity for the year then ended, the consolidated and separate statements of cash flows for the year then ended, and the notes to the consolidated and separate financial statements, which include a summary of significant accounting policies. We confirm that, 1, we have obtained all the information and explanations which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purposes of our audit. 2, the company has kept proper books of accounts so far as appears from our examination of those books, and returns adequate for our audit have been received from branches not visited by us. 3, the company's statements of financial position and comprehensive income are in agreement with the books of account. 4, the information required by Central Bank of Nigeria Circular BSD 1/2004 on insider-related credit is disclosed in Note 49 to the financial statements. 5, except for the contraventions disclosed in Note 51 to the financial statement, the group and company have complied with the requirements of the relevant circulars issued by the Central Bank of Nigeria.
In compliance with Section 359 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2004, we have reviewed the audit report for the year ended 31 December 2016, and hereby state as follows. 1, the scope and planning of the audit were adequate in our opinion. The accounting and reporting policies of the company conformed to the statutory requirements and agreed ethical practices. 3, the internal control was being constantly and effectively monitored. The external auditor's management report received satisfactory response from management. 5, the committee reviewed the audit report on insider-related party transaction and is satisfied with the status as required by the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Some of the shareholders gave their remarks on the 2016 financial year result of FBN Holdings plc and the decision by the holdco to pay 20 kobo dividend.
Two very important things that runs in the minds of shareholders, whom I believe I am representing here, is the dividend and the impairment. The dividend and the impairment. Mr. Chairman, the dividend, as highlighted by the auditors, it's also a worrisome issue. But when you look at the statement of the chairman, the statement of Group Managing Director, it is very clearly stated that these things are being checked, that the future will always be better than the past.
It's a difficult environment we are operating. But despite that, in all ramifications, First Bank is still a very strong bank to any other bank in Nigeria. And ever since the coming on board of Dr. Adeshola and Mr. UK, they have done their best. I would like to point out some of those things. First is the appointment of new executive director within the commercial banking group. Number 2, they overhauled the risk management framework and the governance of the commercial banking. Number 3, First Bank sustained its leadership as the only financial institution in Nigeria to achieve 100 million electronic banking transactions per month. And number 4, FBN Insurance, now the fastest growing insurance company in Nigeria.
MD CEO of First Bank of Nigeria and other subsidiaries, Dr. Adeshola Adedunto, responded to some of the concerns of shareholders and their observation of the FBN operations.
The bank, which is a very key component of FBN Holdings and across the entire spectrum of our operating businesses, we are executing our 2017-2019 business strategy. And that strategy has taken cognizance of where we were before, what are the gaps that have been noted by the board and management of the institutions, and what we need to do differently as we move into the future. A key component of that business strategy is on digital banking. Today, First Bank as an entity, we have about 14 million customers. Our strategic push is to move to about 30 million customers in the course of 2017 to 2020, which is quite significant. The whole essence of doing this is we're migrating the institution away from being a credit-led institution to transactions-led institution, which means we want to generate more non-interest income. So if you look in the market today, it was mentioned by one of the shareholders, First Bank is the only bank that has consistently processed more than 100 million transactions by count through the InterSwitch platform over the last 7 to 8 months. Also, NIBS gave and recognized First Bank as the only bank that in the last 3-4 months has not suffered any downtime. We've had 100% system availability. All these were on the back of preparing your bank to deal with the volume growth that we are working towards. If today we have 14 million customers and we are aggressively working towards 30 million customers, so we needed to do that. So in terms of sustainability of our earnings, we are working very hard to ensure that the impact of the VAR gain that we had in the course of 2016 is minimized. Indeed, if you look at our Q1 results, as FBN Holdings Group, we made, give or take, Q1, 19.9 billion, approximately 20 billion, which already, if you assume that Q1 is a good reflection of what the remaining quarters will be, that's already projecting a PBT that is almost 3 or 4 times bigger than what we did in the course of 2016. And that also speaks about, and that is after we have made adequate allowance for impairment. So that suggests very strongly that impairments going forward will remain relatively high, but will not be at the magnitude of 2016.
Group Managing Director of FBN Holdings PLC, Mr. UK also explained the management decision on the dividend payment.
The only question I need to address is with respect to the dividend, which we acknowledge is not at the level that we should have proposed for your approval. But there are reasons for it, and I need to just make the point that we deliberately allowed the commercial bank to retain their earnings, which if you look at the accounts, it's about 50 billion, and it was for future growth, because we do believe that retaining earnings and therefore achieving capital at the level of 17.8 or 18% currently is a lot better than approaching shareholders to recapitalize the bank. Secondly, mindful of the central bank's regulation, which says that if your NPL ratio is above 10%, then you are restricted from paying dividend. Again, we could not have mandated the commercial bank to upstream dividends to us. But it was important that we took the period of the recession that the country was in last year and 2 years ago to clean up, so that as we now begin to see the economy grow 1% or 2%, we will have no reason whatsoever to not demand dividend from the commercial bank. And the 50 billion that we allowed the commercial bank to retain, if you do the maths, that could have yielded to the holding company about 1.43 naira. So we do believe that based on the initiatives at the bank, based on the competent management we have, and based on the visionary board that we have at the bank level and other subsidiaries, certainly our shareholders should expect something better going forward.
Mr. UK speaks further on the 2016 financial year and the 2017 outlook for FBN Holdings PLC.
Well, I would say 2016, despite the challenges that we faced, was a very good year, clearly. And we saw for the first time a Nigerian financial service institution gross nearly 600 billion. That is the highest in the market. And then besides that, the efficiency ratios showed clearly that we had done a whole lot in terms of initiatives. We saw the cost-income ratio go to as low as 47.1% from a high of 61 prior year. We also saw the net interest margin inch up to about 8.8%, which is very significant. And that demonstrates the belief the market has on the brand in terms of ability to generate and mobilize low-cost deposits and also price optimally. So clearly, this year, 2017, we envisage even a better outing for the group. The economy is going to grow 2017, so if we take bearing from there, if the economy grows, we are embedded. We are fully covering the entire spectrum, from insurance to the asset management group, the merchant bank, and the commercial bank. We are well positioned to take advantage of opportunities that are emerging, and we're going to harvest those opportunities. So as the economy opens up, as the economy is being reflected, we certainly will see better outing for 2017. So we are optimistic that this year will be far better than 2016.
Shareholders gave their views on the FBN Holdings PLC market performance and their expectations ahead.
I am very satisfied with the performance of the holding because I read through the figures and I understand what created some of the problems which had been addressed by the explanation of the group managing director and the chairman of the bank. So once a while, we usually see this kind of thing. But the ability to overcome it subsequently, it's what makes a bank a very strong institution. And that's what I have discovered, and that's what they have promised that they are going to do, which means that the future will be much rosier than the past.
First Bank remains a leader in terms of branch of growth, in terms of branch expansion, in terms of customer base. They remain the number one bank. Yeah, people can say, why are they not paying 1 naira, why not pay 2 naira? But these are not, As long as First Bank is doing, look at today, in terms of technology deployment, they are number one. In terms of technology. In terms of ATM, people are complaining about, they are number one. Most other customers from other banks make use of their own ATM, and they are paying higher. When other bank, if you're President Access Bank, you're using ATM, for to draw money from First Bank, they pay higher. So First Bank has been the number one bank, and shareholders are happy with them. So we believe in future. We don't want to take now. Tomorrow, is there for us. So we believe that the bank have done well and they continue to do well. So we have that. They have our support, and we're going to support them. So anything other people are faking is a fake news. We believe in the bank and we trust the management ability and the board. They can deliver any day, anytime.
2016 financial year was a challenging one for FBN Holdings PLC. With the 2017 to 2019 strategy of the group, shareholders are optimistic that there will be remarkable turnovers in the company that will lead to rewarding dividend payments.